Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. Now in today's video, we're going to test out this new A100 auto press by HTVRont. So what you have is you have a base unit here, and then you have three different things that you can attach to it to do three different functions. So first of all, we're going to press a DTF shirt. For that, we'll attach this flat piece right up in here, and then there's a pressing mat under this. Hopefully you can see that. After that, we'll press a tumbler. So we have a tumbler attachment as well. And then third, we're going to do a hat. We're going to press rhinestones on a hat. And so you have two parts over here that you connect to the press to be able to make hats. We also have a manual, as well as a pair of heat-resistant gloves came in the box. So it said to plug it in first. Let's go ahead and do that. Now it's time to select the mode that we want. And you press down here to do that. And I think it's a long press. And it says a mode icon will flash on the display screen. Right now it's a little t-shirt, and that's what we want to do. So the next thing it says is to press the start button, which is right here. Now it tells me to go ahead and add this to it. So on this piece, you have these two metal rods right there, and there's an area over here where those fit in. So here's where we're going to put those rods. And there's something that looks like this on both sides. So we'll put the heat plate under it and we'll just press straight up. So before we do that, this goes to the back and then this is the front. So hopefully I can do this without getting in front of the camera. I'm going to line those up and then just press straight up. Next, I'm supposed to install this. This is the pressing mat, and this does roll out, so I can roll that out. You have two pieces of elastic on each side. I already did the right side, and then I realized that you couldn't see what I was doing. But you're going to take the elastic, and then there's a little hook type thing under here. We're just going to attach it to that. Each of the three components has a plug like this that connects to another plug that's on the back of the main unit. There is a little arrow on this, and there's also an arrow on this part. I don't know that you can see that. There it is, right there. So we're going to connect those together. Now at this time, we can finally power up the machine, and you're going to press right here to do that. Now this looks pretty intuitive. I want my temperature set at 325, so I'm going to press the picture of the thermometer, and then I should be able to press this up, or this plus sign. Let's get that up to 325. You know what? Let's see how high this goes. All right, it tops out at 390. Now I want to change to 20 seconds to 15 seconds. So I'm going to press this little clock. Wait a minute. Yeah, we'll press the clock and we'll decrease this to 15. Now I think that's supposed to be a scale for the pressure. So let me press that. It is. Let's see how much pressure we can have. Okay, 170 pounds. And then the least amount of pressure is 50. I'm going to go all the way up to 170. When you're pressing DTF, you want really good firm pressure. All right, now it's just time to let it heat up. While that's heating up, let me show you what I'm going to press this on. So I have this kind of tan color shirt, maybe a sand color shirt. And then I found this design on Creative Fabrica. And I thought it was just light and airy and really cute. So as this is heating up, I want to go ahead and pre-press my shirt. So we're going to roll out the drawer. Let's place my shirt on it. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and close this up. Now what I don't know is, can I get it to come down before it heats up all the way? So let's try it. Let's push the start button. All right, I'm just going to let this heat for about 15 seconds. And I do like the fact that it's heating up fairly quickly. Now my time was set to 15 seconds, so that went ahead and lifted up on its own. All right, so here's the handle. And now I'm going to make a crease down the middle. And that crease down the middle is going to help me place my design in the center of the shirt. So we'll just put this on here like that, and then let's press it again for about 15 seconds. Now I'm going to take a minute, and over here to the side, I'm going to go ahead and get my design on my shirt. There's the little crease. And then I also found the middle of my design, and I put a crease up top and a crease at the bottom. So I should be able to line up those creases and have it be centered and straight. All right, let's make sure it's really nice and flat. Make sure that it is well within the heat press, and it is, and the collar's off. So let's do this. Oh, I shut it off. That is not what I wanted to do. Okay, all my settings were saved, so let's press the play button. Now I want to let this cool off. So I'll give it a couple of minutes and then I'll peel it off. Let me try a corner of this and see how it's going to come up. And that looks great. So I can go ahead and lift the tape and then peel this back. Now I am going to do a second press. And for the second press, I use parchment paper. I like to use parchment paper, but I think that some people actually do use Teflon. So a Teflon cover sheet. Okay, I have that back situated where I want it. So I'll put this on, and this time I'm going to let it press for 10 seconds, and then I'll go ahead and lift it. So here's my first project. I think it turned out really cute. The press did a nice job. That feels great. Next, we're going to do a cap. They sent me 3 caps. We're going to do this one today. I think maybe this could be sublimation ready also. But for me, I love rhinestones, so I'm going to put this little paw print on it. So first I'm going to disconnect the heat plate. There's a little button that you press, and that kind of makes that lift up so that you can get it out easily. And I'm actually going to go ahead and unplug it too, just to be safe, since this is my first time using this. To remove the heat plate, you just push on this. Now it's going to fall down on the pad, so make sure you have the pad in there. Or you can be holding on while you push it. So if I push it in and hold on, that helps out some, but I think it'd be fine just to let it fall onto the pressing mat. All right, let's go ahead and take that off. And then we're going to remove the pad. And then there's a little hole right here. Now there's also a little screw hole, so I might have to use a screwdriver. Let's see. All right, let's push this mode button, and I think I have to do a long press. There we go. We're back on t-shirts. So let's press it again. There we have, it looks like a coffee cup, so that's going to be the tumbler part. Let's press it one more time. And that's a little bitty hat that's flashing there. So I'm going to attach this part of the hat press the same way I did that plate. I'm just putting it under here and pressing up. All right, it says to pull out the ironing board. And then we have these two things that have to go below the metal to hold them in place. And then I think we're going to twist. So let me see. There we go. Next we attach the main unit with the hat press. Now I'm going to press the start button so that top platen will lift up. Now I can go ahead and turn it on. It wasn't until later during my recording that I noticed that the screen of the machine was out of the view of the camera. So let me just tell you what settings I used. For the hat, I used 350 degrees for 15 seconds, and I left the pressure alone. So let's just let that get up to 350. While it's doing that, let me kind of play around with this. So there is a handle here that I think I want to start the metal piece up here. Once I get the hat kind of where I want it, I can lift this lever and that's going to pull the back of the hat down to kind of keep it more tight. Inside here you have this sweatband. So we're going to pull that out like that. And then let's see, let's just put this hat down. And I might have to adjust the band. Let me see. Let me go ahead and see if it'll hold it down. Hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, I don't like it when the platens come down onto the bill. And so I want to make sure that I'm forward far enough. And I need to come forward just a little bit more. Okay, that's already up to temperature. So let's do a dry run of this. Let me go ahead and put that back in place. And let's press start. And that is really coming down on the bill. I don't know if I can keep from that happening though. Let me try to adjust where my hat is just a little bit better. Okay, we're going to go with it like that. So here I have my rhinestones. They're on hot fix transfer tape. And I want this to be off-centered. And so I'm going to place it over like this. And I know you can't really see it, but it's kind of tilted and it's off-center. You'll see it here in just a minute. Okay, let's try it. So I can push this lever down, that releases the hat, and then let's go ahead and slowly peel this off, and that looks great. That looks really good. I like it. For now, I can just twist this back off. Now it's time for our tumbler. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back off. And then I'm going to disconnect this from the plug in the back. Now that's pretty hot, so I'm going to have to let that cool down before I remove it. And actually, I'm going to get these handy dandy heat resistant gloves that came with it so I can take it off now. So I'm going to support under it and then push on this orange piece right here. If I wasn't trying to push in from the side, that would have been a lot easier. But I didn't want to get in front of the camera. So now let's try a tumbler. So let me go ahead and go back to the mode. I'll do a long set for that, or a long press for that. It's still on hat, so let's press it again. That's probably going to take it, I'm not sure what that takes it to. I'll have to read up on that. We'll press it again. There's the shirt. And then here's the coffee mug, so that's my tumbler press mode. Just like with the other attachments, you have your metal bars here. We're going to line those up. And then it looks like you have little handles here to hold on to. Let's just press straight up. Then we're going to connect this cable again. So there's my arrow on there. There's the arrow on here. So we'll just plug those together. So the next thing is to press the start button. That takes it down to where it needs to be. And then I think we can press the power button. Yes. Since you can't really see what I'm doing, let me walk you through it. First, I bumped up the temperature to 385 degrees and I set the time for 50 seconds. That's a setting that I often use. But then I rotate the tumbler after the first 50 seconds is up, and then I press it for another 50 seconds. But after looking at the manual, I decided to use HTVRont suggested settings. So I bumped it down to 365 degrees for 130 seconds. Also, when you're using the tumbler attachment, you don't need to do anything with the pressure. There's a default pressure for the tumbler attachment. All right, let's go ahead and put our tumbler in. And I think I'm going to put it with the seam up. It doesn't really tell me, or I didn't notice in the instructions the way I'm supposed to do that. And I want to center it because it's pressing down here. And so I want to have half of the tumbler this way and half of the tumbler that way, or the excess. So I'm going to try to center that. I think that looks pretty good. So now let's press start. Now there is a gap in there, which is why I like to rotate my tumblers halfway through. So if this one doesn't sublimate well, I'll try another one soon where I actually rotate it. But let's see how this turns out. I added the pressing mat here because this is going to be extremely hot and I wanted to protect my table from how hot it is. So I'm going to let it sit there. I'm going to let it cool down pretty much all the way. Let's go ahead and turn this off for now. And in a few minutes I'll come back, I'll unwrap that, and we'll see together how it looks. This is still pretty hot, but I don't think it's so hot that it would still sublimate. What you don't want to do is shift your paper while your tumbler is still so hot that it would sublimate, because then you can cause some blurring. So let's just kind of trim down into the tape. I'm excited to see how this turns out. I don't know that I've ever pressed a tumbler before where I didn't rotate it. Maybe I have. I see some good color back there, I think. All right, what do you think? What do you think? You think it's going to turn out nice? Or do you think I'm going to need to rotate it next time? The color's pretty. Oh my goodness. Now what I don't know is, where was the gap? And if I can't tell where the gap was, I guess that's a good thing. So let me get this other glove on too. Let's take a close look at this. All right, there's the top. That looks excellent. And of course, there's my seam. And then here's the bottom. Let me get that where you can see it. I like that nice, crisp line there. And so the seam was up, right? So the gap would have had to have been right in here. But there's no gap in the color. So that turned out really nice. I fully expected to be able to see where that gap was. So here's our projects for today, and we used each of the 3 functions of this press. We made a DTF shirt. That turned out perfectly fine. We made a rhinestone cap. Very pretty. Now I probably should have pressed the rhinestones after I took the transfer tape off, but that's okay. And then lastly, we have the tumbler. I was really impressed with it. I was impressed when I was worried that I wouldn't be impressed, but it turned out super nice as well. Now, who do I think this press is for? I really feel like this is for someone that's getting into crafting and they have an interest in all different types of crafts. They want a heat press, they want a tumbler press, and they want a hat press. The components switch in and out very easily. That's a nice feature. I think the only thing I would caution you about is you want to make sure that a 10-inch by 12-inch press is large enough. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you're interested in this little press, check out my links below. I have an affiliate link to it, and I also have a discount code. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until my next video, bye-bye.